Well, welcome to this amazing Wealth Builders webinar. Come on in, come on in. We're so happy to see you. Tonight's going to be really fun. Anytime that we have Bill Bronchick is a fun evening. And Bill, you're going to be talking, I'm going to read this title, talking about Covered and Called, Protecting Your Wealth While Advancing God's Kingdom.
You got it. That's exactly it.
It's going to be so good. And by the way, I saw your YouTube video that you did with your guitar. So I just want to give
Oh,
you a shout
cool.
out. Like, check out Bill's YouTube channel. Not only does he do like great legal things, but every once in a while, I think it's the same channel, you pop out there with your amazing singing and
Yeah,
guitar playing.
yeah. Yeah, I do. But no, a lot of those are unlisted. I don't like broadcast them out. I'm a little shy about that.
Uh-huh.
So I just posted it on my Facebook page for feedback first.
Okay. Well, we'll follow you. I know I
Yeah,
follow
but they
you,
all
so we
know I'm a
get to see
musician.
those.
They could see
Yep.
like from my home office. This is also my recording studio.
It's awesome. We're just so glad to have you. And I'm so
Pleasure.
blessed to have our coaches on tonight as well. We've got Pastor Mike Davis tuning in from Pueblo, who had a major windstorm today.
Hmm.
Yes, but all is well. And I'm excited to hear you, Mr. Bill. Looking forward to
Thank
it, my
you.
friend.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
And we've
Pleasure.
got
We had the
Frank.
wind too here,
Good.
so in Colorado Springs. So
Oh,
I,
yeah, it
I,
has
I
been
was, I almost
windy.
got hit by a garbage can as I'm driving away. A garbage can like went tumbling across the street.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And we've got Frank Pulley on. Frank, welcome.
Thanks. Hey, I've known Bill for a long time. We're good friends, and you're in for a treat. He never disappoints.
Absolutely. We've got Troy Peterson tuning in from Florida, who's had no wind issues today.
No wind in Florida. That's good because when the wind blows like that here in Florida, they call it hurricanes. It's
Yeah.
kind of scary. So it turns things into projectiles that aren't meant to fly. But
Yeah.
looking forward to hearing from you tonight, Bill. Covered
Thank
and
you.
called, not to be confused with a covered call, right?
That's right. That's exactly what I thought when we came up with the title. I'm like, are people going to think we're talking about covered calls? No.
Well, we're so blessed to have all of you, and I'm going to give a lot of shout outs here. I love how everybody's tuning in, letting me know where you're coming in from. And obviously, this is a very exciting week at Wealth Builders because our conference is happening this weekend. It's starting on Friday. And I was just sharing with the coaching team and Bill that we've really had a great response. We had a huge surge over the weekend, and I really think there's something special that we're going to be tuning into this weekend with the Holy Spirit. I had just a great meeting with Billy and Becky yesterday going through the schedule, and I'm just telling you, we are all expectant. So I'm expectant that all of you are already registered, but in case you are not registered, we want to give you this information. One last chance here to get registered. Our VIP sold out today, so we don't have any more of the VIP tickets, but we definitely have some live stream and in person that's available. And I just want to encourage you, this is not going to disappoint. This is going to be an amazing weekend. So if you're not yet registered, please consider doing so. And in the meantime, here, I want to give some shout outs to these amazing people that are tuning in. Fern, thanks for tuning in from Tennessee. We appreciate you. Kristen from Colorado, welcome. So glad to have you. Dan from Cocoa, Florida. I love it. So glad to have you. I know it's been great weather down there, and I hope to get down there soon. We've got DJ tuning in from Texas. We've got Sullivan or Solly from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Welcome. We have got Diamond tuning in from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome. Paula Maria, so good to see you from Pensacola, Florida. Kitten, oh my goodness, so good to see you. We're going to have to connect. I hope you're coming to the Wealth Builders Conference from Woodland Park, Colorado. Maureen and Jack, always amazing to see you. She said that Jack had a last minute meeting called for the same time as our webinar, but we're so glad that you are on. I hope we see you this weekend, Maureen and Jack. We've got Panache. Oh, welcome. Tuning in from Zimbabwe. So glad to have you. We've got Theophilus tuning in. Pastor Theo, thank you, from Phoenix, Arizona. So good to have you. Dan Dyer, you need to be on the panelist because Dan is a main speaker this weekend. You have to let us know when you're sneaking in on these things so we can see your face. Dan is going to have an amazing message Sunday morning. I was just going through and I said, you know what? There is Dan on Sunday morning. We are all going to be fired up. So that, if nothing else, come to see Dan on a Sunday morning. We've got Godwin tuning in from Nigeria. Welcome. Fran, thank you for joining us again. You're so faithful from Illinois. Mia, so good to see you too. We saw you on the coaching call today. Mia is rocking it, by the way. She's in real estate coaching. She is rocking it, doing a great job. Tom, thank you for tuning in from West Texas. We've got Tad, oh my goodness, in our coaching family, advanced coaching from Anoka, Minnesota. We've got, here we go. Sully and Mindy are looking forward to being at the conference in person. Yay. So glad to hear that. Oh gosh, this is amazing. We've also got George tuning in from Kenya. Needless to say, we have people coming in from all over the world. And Anne, thanks for joining us from Woodland Park. It is really a blessing to us and Billy and Becky to see all of you so connected to Wealth Builders. We truly believe that we are knitted in the spirit realm by the heart, and you all mean so much to us. So with that, I want to just let you know that Bill is going to be sharing some vital information with us tonight. It's always helpful. Also, we're going to just retain some time for question and answers. So if you have got a question, go ahead and post that in the chat section in the Zoom, and we will answer as many of those as possible. So with that, Mr. Bronchick, we're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for everyone else on the panel who joined, and those of you, of course, who are watching on the live stream. It's such a pleasure to be able to share thoughts, ideas, and concepts with you. And tonight's topic is covered and called, protecting your wealth while advancing God's kingdom. So you probably have a hint about what this is about, but it's about protecting yourself using not only, legal strategies, but spiritual strategies for protecting what you have accumulated from legal challenges, practical challenges, taxes, and other pitfalls that can come along while you are generating wealth for you and for the generations in your family that are coming afterwards. So they say in business, there's what you know, what you don't know, and then the really scary part, what you don't know that you don't know, and that's really what should keep you up at night. People sometimes operate by the seat of their pants. And I admire people who go and take massive action, don't get me wrong. But there's a balance between learning what to do and learning how to do it right, and of course, taking action. You don't want to go off so DIY that you don't know what you're doing. But on the other hand, if all you do is go to seminars and learn and don't do anything, then you don't accumulate any wealth. So it is my wish and my prayer that all of you not only gather and learn some ideas tonight, but get the spirit of understanding and also the inclination to take action on what you do. So my proverb, it's not in the book of Proverbs like Solomon, is trust in God, but CYA, which does not mean call your attorney. Oh, well, sometimes it's call your attorney when you get into trouble, but as we're going to talk about everything that you have to plan in your business for protection is preventative measures. You can't wait until things go bad to implement the strategies that I'm going to discuss tonight. Everything is like, it's kind of like jumping out of an airplane and whoops, I forgot my parachute. First you better have your parachute on before you jump out of a plane. Right? So landlords and business owners are very easy targets, very easy targets. And why do you think that is? Just people in the chat. Like, if you're a landlord, if you're in real estate business or you're a business owner, you've got employees, you're an easy target. Let's some people in the chat. Let's see if we can come up with some ideas. Why do you people think that is? Let's see. Because of equity present, that's right, because they think that if you own property and you own a business, that you've got something that people can go after legally. That is true. But also think about this. Who makes up the jury pool? Tenants and employees. What do you think? If you go to court, you're going to get a jury of your peers? Do you think that did Donald Trump in New York City get a jury of other billionaires? No, he did not. He got average people, and the average person doesn't like their boss and they don't like their landlord, and they go to court. It's payback time. So you do not want to be in court as one of those things, either a landlord or employer, because those are the people who get the noose when it comes to the jury pool. So we want to make sure that we stay out of court. My job is to make sure you stay out of court. So I make money in court. You don't make money in court. I make money in court. You want to stay out of court. And these strategies are to prevent you from ending up in court. But if you do end up in court, getting on the winning side. Now, a lot of people think that insurance is a really good thing to have. And don't get me wrong, it is. But my first job out of law school was working for an insurance company law firm. My job was to see how, when a claim was made by the insured, when they got sued, that the insurance company can get out of paying a claim. That was my job, is to make sure not to protect the insured, but to see, like, let's read the policy and read the claim facts and see if there's an exemption or an exception or some way we can get out of paying this. They're very good at two things: collecting premiums and denying claims, and they're exceedingly good at denying claims, which is why they make some money. It's sort of like that gown you wear at the doctor's office. You put it on, and the doctor says, "Put this gown on, take off your clothes, put this on." And you say, "Oh, this isn't so bad." And then you catch what's hanging out the back in the rear view mirror, right? You know what I'm talking about. And that goes back to CYA, and I'm talking about it right there too. I don't have to spell it out for you. So, um, to quote it in a biblical sense, Luke 6:48-49, he is like a man which built an house and dig deep, laid the foundation on a rock. And when the flood arose, the steam beat vehemently upon the house and could not shake it, for it was founded upon the rock. This is the King James Version. Tough language, right? But he that heareth and doeth not is like a man that without a foundation built an house upon the earth, again which the stream did beat vehemently, and immediately fell, and the ruin of that house was great. So the analogy here that I'm trying to make here, bringing it to a biblical sense, is your business is sort of like the foundation of a house. The foundation of a house is built from what? It's built on concrete. What if you built a house on a plywood foundation? What would happen? Well, we know that. Eventually it would rot out and your house would collapse. Same with your business. You want to build your business on a foundation of concrete from the ground up. So when the storms come, when you build the foundation on a rock, when the flood arises and the stream beats vehemently upon that house, it could not shake it. And we're talking both from a legal standpoint, a practical standpoint, but also from a biblical standpoint. From a biblical standpoint, prayer, making sure that you give your first fruits, as Billy and Becky have talked about so many times, to have supernatural protection of your business. These are ways that you can cover not only in the legal sense, but in the spiritual sense. You have to make sure you not only have the court's protection, you have God's protection, the ultimate court, the ultimate judge. Okay, so when you walk into that courtroom, you've already won. You've already won. That's the beauty of it. So this is what we're going to talk about tonight. Number one, considerations for an entity choice for your business. Number two, different types of available entities, corporate entities that you could form for your business. Number three, layering entities for maximum effect. And number four, where do you get started with all this? Because I'm going to cover quite a few complicated advanced topics, but the question is, where do you go next and where do you start to put this into action? So the first thing is the consideration. So when picking an entity for your business, whether it be real estate, whether it be a ministry, or some combination thereof. Maybe it's a storefront, a service business, doesn't really matter. We have to look at what's the risk of exposure to lawsuits and liability. And we've already hinted at that, having things like tenants, customers, employees. Those are all potential liability points in your business. Number two, what is the cost of forming and maintaining the entity? So people think about sometimes just the formation. You pay a lawyer X amount of dollars to set it all up, and then you forget about you have to maintain these things. So there's a cost. You have to file tax returns. You got to prepare corporate paperwork every year. You got to file reports with maybe your Secretary of State or something like that, with the IRS, with the local authorities, and so on and so forth. You got to keep books. You got to make sure that you have good, clean bookkeeping and so forth. So that is a cost in time and actual expense. What are the tax implications and tax reporting requirements of this setup? And that's a big thing. And I find with most clients that I meet with, this is the biggest issue is what are the tax implications? Because everybody's different. Some people have a regular job or business and they're high earners. Some people are self-employed and have lots of write-offs. Some people are a little bit of both. They have where you work, but they're just starting a side gig or something like that. So everybody's a little bit different, and it's so important to consider the tax implications. And I just posted this on Facebook yesterday. If you're an entrepreneur, you should be talking to your accountant on January 1st for the year ahead, not on April 14th for the year behind. Again, it's like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. There's only so much your accountant can do for you on April 14th for the tax year before. The time to be planning is now for the year ahead to make sure that you're doing things appropriately. And then transition of ownership to your heirs to make sure that if something happens to you, you can have smooth transition to the generation and create, and not only create generational wealth, but pass it on to the generations appropriately. And then, of course, the bookkeeping and the paperwork. How complex do you want to make your business and, frankly, your life? I mean, how much do you? I mean, we can go to the nth degree with protecting yourself and saving taxes and so on and so forth. But how tough do you want to make it on yourself? So I'm always been a big believer in the KISS principle. The KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Um, Simple is good because simple means that you can manage it. Because if you can't manage what an attorney has set up for you or you set up for yourself, then it doesn't work. It doesn't work for you at all. You can set up corporate entities and all these things, and if you don't follow the rules, you don't keep good books, you don't do the annual paperwork that's required, and so on and so forth, your foundation is going to collapse like wet plywood. Okay. So make sure there's a balance between, okay, I want protection, but on the other hand, I don't want to be so busy having corporate meetings with myself that I can't go out and do business. There's got to be some balance in between. And everybody's got a different level of tolerance for risk and how much of the paperwork and the time and money they want to spend in implementing this stuff. So let's talk about the different types of entities that are available. So basically, it falls into a couple of categories. Number one, we have what's called a C corporation. Now, a C corporation it's a corporation filed with the state. Every public corporation is a C corporation. It has shareholders, it has a board of directors, it has officers like president, secretary, treasurer, vice president, and so forth. And it's pretty involved. I mean, in terms of paperwork and formalities and so on and so forth. You can also do what's called an S corporation. Now, a corporation is a corporation. shareholders, directors, officers. The paperwork is pretty much the same. The difference mainly is how you're taxed. In an S corporation, your taxes are reported in the corporation, the income and expenses, but the corporation doesn't pay any corporate tax at the federal level. A C corporation files its own tax return, pays tax. So Google has its own tax return and reports, billions and billions of dollars in revenue and expenses. And if there's anything left over, then they're going to pay corporate tax. If they distribute profits to their shareholder, if you're a shareholder in Google or whatever public corporation, then you get a dividend and you get taxed on that dividend. So if you are the owner of a C corporation, not a public corporation, but a C corporation where you're the shareholder, you're also on the board of directors, and you're also the president, you're getting taxed twice, once at the federal level and once at the dividend level. Now, there are a million ways around that we could discuss. It is way beyond our discussion tonight. But just understand the difference. A C corporation has two levels of tax, an S corporation only has one level. Whatever the profit is, it passes through. That's why we call that a pass-through entity. You may have heard that expression before. It passes through to the shareholders who reported it on their personal return, whether it be a profit or a loss. So usually people start out with S corporations because in the first couple of years you have a lot of expenses and startup, and you may be losing money on paper. So you take that write off on your personal return. On a C corporation, you can't write off losses. On the other hand, if you're making money and you're making a lot of it in the company and you don't want it passing through, you already have income from another source, whether it be a W-2 or another business, and you're already in a high tax bracket, a C corporation would probably be better for you because the corporate tax rate is lower than the personal tax rate at that level. Whereas in an S corporation, when you're starting out, that's the preferred entity. It's just as a rule of thumb. There's no right answer. And by the way, any attorney or anybody who tries to sell you on a one size fits all package for setting up corporate entities, you should hold on to your wallet with both hands and run because there's no one size fits all. Everybody's got a different scenario and there's no right or wrong. You can't say a C corporation is better than an S or an S is better than a C. You get the lawyer answer, right? You've heard me say it before. It depends, right? It depends. In fact, you may have noticed on social media, everybody's doing the AI thing where you make a cartoon character of yourself. So I went on ChatGPT and I said, make a cartoon character of William Bronchick, and it came up with me with a law book and everything, and a little quote, a bubble above my head that said, "It depends," and I didn't even tell it that. Must have been searching through all the replays of the Wealth Builders videos. Then we have an LLC or limited liability company. Okay. A limited liability company is like a corporation in that you have liability protection as an owner, but the tax setup is completely different than an S or a C corporation. And there's multiple ways to do it. And that's why most people like LLCs because, number one, it's easier to run than a corporation. You don't need to have annual meetings. You don't need to have all these resolutions and bylaws and stock certificates and all that stuff. It's much simpler to run. That's why most of my clients prefer it. However, you can combine an LLC with the tax benefits, let's say, of an S corporation and get really the best of both worlds. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Then we have what's called a family limited partnership, which is really just a limited partnership between generally family members, but it doesn't have to be family members. But typically a limited partnership. So in a limited partnership, we'll go over that. You have general and limited partners instead of shareholders and directors and officers. Okay. And finally, there are trusts, and there's so many different types of trusts available to you, but mainly what we use trusts for in our scenario are two things. In this discussion, we're going to use trusts for number one, for estate planning, for passing the generational wealth on to the next generation or two, or three or four, depending on how much you have. Also, we use it for anonymity purposes because corporations, LLCs, limited partnerships. It's all public information that people can look up with the state online. Whereas trusts are not recorded anywhere, at least not the type of trust we'll be talking about. So there's no public database. There was going to be one. The government was going to put together a database, and then the Trump administration nixed that rule, thankfully. There's also a new type of trust, and if those of you who have seen this before, that it's really irking me, and so I just wanted to get it off my chest. There are people promoting what is called, this is a mouthful, a non-grantor, irrevocable spendthrift trust. That's a mouthful. That's like $100 legal phrase for you right there. A non-grantor irrevocable spendthrift trust. The videos are all over TikTok, all over Instagram, all over social media, YouTube, promoting this. I'll just say it outright. It's a scam. Now, what I just described is not a scam, but what they're telling you it can do, which is basically make you bulletproof, judgment proof. You own nothing, but you still control everything, and you don't pay any income tax, you don't pay any estate tax. And they're charging $25,000 for this setup, non-lawyers mostly. And several clients have come to me and asked me about it, and I researched it a lot and spoke with several tax professionals, and we all came to the same conclusion. Scam. It's a scam. So I got that off my chest. All right. So the rules of thumb are determine the nature of your income, whether it be real estate or otherwise. Is it passive or is it earned? What's the difference? Earned income comes from either a salary like a W-2 or a 1099 or a self-employed business. And passive, there are things like interest, earned, rents, and royalties from a copyright or something like that. Those are passive sources of income. Sometimes income from, let's say, a partnership or an S corporation can be passive too if you're not actively involved. So if you're uh, a member of an LLC where you're investing with, let's say, 30 people in a syndicated project, commercial development, and you're not running it, your earnings are passive. They're not earned because you're not physically doing anything. It's just when you're actually doing a service or selling a product, then it becomes earned income or ordinary income as opposed to passive. And those of you who are landlords might disagree with this, but technically lease income is passive. We do work for it, but it is, according to the Internal Revenue Code, passive income. So passive income would go in an LLC or a limited partnership, whereas earned income would go into a C corporation or an S corporation. That's the rule of thumb. And again, there are exceptions and there are exceptions to the exceptions, but that's generally the rule of thumb. You don't want to be using a C corp or an S corp to hold rental properties, and you don't want to be using an LLC which is what we call single owner or disregarded, which means reporting on your Schedule C of your personal tax return, or a limited partnership or a general partnership for that matter, doing ordinary income. It's the opposite. Okay. And the reason for that is going to be avoiding self-employment tax, the FICA, Social Security, Medicare. Earned income is subject to that. Passive income is not. That's the big thing. And we use trusts generally for estate planning and for anonymity purposes. Okay. So a common setup people do, like they have a lot of assets like real estate, they'll put it all in their own name. They'll go out and buy it with a bank loan, and the bank usually makes you close in your own name, and then you end up with a property in your own name and a loan in your own name. Now, the loan in your own name, you're probably, no matter what, you're not going to get away from that. Even if they let you take title in an LLC, they're going to make you guarantee the loan personally anyway, but you can't get away from that. But owning it in your own name, you're a target. You're a target for a lot of things, not to mention liability, lawsuits, taxes, people prying, um, the media, not exactly fair to people, right? If things go wrong, you don't want the public knowing what you own, generally speaking, especially if you're not even managing it. If you have a property manager, and I learned this early. I had a property manager, and my tenants didn't like what my property manager had to say, so they looked up the owner, me, and found me on social media and started posting on my page what a bad person I was. And I said, oh boy. First, I got to turn off public comments to only my friends. Second of all, I got to get these properties out of my name because I don't want people looking me up. And you don't. Whether you're a business owner, a store owner, whether you're a landlord. Now, if you're a professional like a dentist or a doctor or architect or a real estate agent or whatever, I mean, people know who you are and who owns the business. That's obvious. But if it's a store, you could just tell people you're the manager. Or if it's a rental property and you manage it yourself, you could just say, I'm the property manager. You don't have to say you're the owner and also it's a different dynamic too. When you deal with employees, and you're just the manager, not the owner of the business, or you're dealing with tenants and you're just the property manager, not the owner of the property, it's a completely different dynamic when you deal with people because you're not the greedy landlord or the greedy boss. You understand? So, as a practical matter, it's very, very important. Better setup, if you had let's say, a bunch of real estate, would be to put it in a limited liability company. And we said, this is rental income, passive, LLC. That would be an appropriate way to do it. Now, this will protect you from liability. So if someone is hurt in some way, physically or financially, with regard to the properties, then the LLC takes the hit. Not you personally, you won't lose your home, you won't lose your car, you won't lose your personal bank accounts in most cases, but you will lose your properties. Because if they sue the LLC and they get a judgment for $1 million against the LLC, and the LLC owns a bunch of properties, you could lose all your properties. Better than losing everything, but still, if most of your wealth is in the properties or the assets in that LLC, that's not going to do you a lot of good. All right. So, better setup, what a lot of people might do is put each property in a separate LLC. So, home one LLC, home two LLC, home three. The problem with this is it's overkill. As we discussed earlier in the considerations, cost, time, the ongoing maintenance of this, it'll make you crazy. So it's not necessary. And people always ask me these questions at the Wealth Builders events, especially at the real estate workshops when we do the speed coaching. Well, how many properties then should I put in an LLC? And I give them the lawyer answer. It depends. It depends on the cost of filing in your state. It depends on the equity in your properties. It depends on a lot of factors. But all of them in one LLC is not good. And one property per LLC, unless we're talking about apartment building, commercial property, etc., then each one would get its own LLC. But like single family homes and condos, you can put several in one LLC. How many per? The lawyer answer. That's right. You have to just balance the factors and see what is appropriate for you. So let's say a compromise here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 single family homes. And let's say we were going to compromise by breaking them up into 3 LLCs. Now, if someone gets injured, let's say let's grab my pen. Let's say someone gets injured on this property. They're going to sue this LLC. And if they win and you don't have insurance for whatever reason, and they got a judgment against the LLC, it's not covered, this LLC now is going to lose that property, this property, and this property. Not 3, not good. But it's better than losing all 8, and your personal assets are protected. So it's not one per, It's not one for all and all for one. It's some compromise in between. And in non-legal terms, it's throwing them a bone. Because if you walk into court and say, Judge, I've got 71 LLCs, 71 properties, they fell on this property number four, and that's all they get is that property, you're not leaving the judge a lot of leeway because the other attorney is going to say, don't fall for it, Judge. It's all her. It's all him. It's all the same owners. We want all of it. So you're not leaving the judge a lot of leeway. Throw him a bone. Okay? More than one. All right? And how many? Well, you know the answer to that one. Okay. The next concept I want to talk about is appearing broke. That is, on paper, hiding your assets. Now, people tend to sue others who look like they're worth suing. That's just a general practical principle of litigation. It's the golden rule of law. You know that one. He who has the gold gets sued. So if you look like you have lots of assets and you're worth getting sued, chances are you will get sued. I mean, that's just the practical reality because it's that E word that everybody has. I'm not going to say which political party, but you know the one I'm talking about. Envy. The rich tax the rich, the greedy rich. The rich don't pay their fair share. The rich owes me something. My landlord owes me something. My boss owes me something. The business that did something wrong to me owes me something. Everyone that has that entitlement attitude, that victim mentality, and we want to get away from that by appearing that we're not worth getting sued. And you've seen these ads on billboards and bus stops and so forth. Has someone injured you? Car accident, train wreck, dog bite, mosquito bite? Call 1-800 Let's Sue. They go down to the law offices of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. And how does that work? What do we call these lawyers? Yeah, I know you're thinking ambulance chasers. The technical term is contingent fee lawyer. What does that mean? That means their fee is contingent upon their ability to not only sue and win, but collect. Because they don't get paid until they collect. It's not about winning. Remember, they got a $25 million judgment against O.J. Simpson in the Cole Brown Simpsons family, right? What did they get? Not too much, right? It's not about winning, it's about collecting. So if a lawyer doesn't think they can collect, no matter how good of a case you may have, they're not going to take it on that basis. They're not going to work for 30% or 40% or 50%, whatever their fee is, of nothing. If there's insurance and they think they can go after the insurance, they'll take the case. If they think you have lots of assets, they may take the case. If they think that you have a great case and they can win, it doesn't matter. Because if they don't think they can collect for sure, they're not taking the case on a contingency. They'll be fine with you paying them a $10,000 retainer and $400 an hour. That's generally what lawyers get in litigation, which could be as high as 100,000 or more by the time you're done with the case. Now, even if you don't win, but even if you do win and you can't collect, that's a lot of money to shell out if you're the plaintiff. So let's look at it this way. What if we put all these properties in your own name? Well, you're totally exposed. So what I recommend is a specific type of trust known as a land trust. What is a land trust? A land trust is a revocable trust that allows you to put each property in a separate named trust that's anonymous. And we call it's not like a living trust where it's like, Frank Pooley Family Trust or Mike Davis Family Trust. We're not doing that. We're going to call it 221 Elm Street Trust. 319 Main Street Trust. Very ubiquitous, anonymous, just generic name after the property. And the great thing about that is the only people who know who the real owner of that trust is. Like in The Wizard of Oz, the man behind the green curtain, the beneficiary, is you and your trustee. And they don't get that information until they commence the lawsuit. Now, that lawyer at Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe is not going to take the case when he sees this because he can't find out who is behind the green curtain until he rolls the dice and files the lawsuit. And lawyers are very hesitant to do that on a contingency unless they're getting paid by the hour. That's fine. But if they're working on a percentage and they're laying out all the costs and time and effort, not going to happen. It's going to dissuade a lot of those lawyers. All right. So now it's kind of like catch me if you can. It's not going to work. So the way we put it all together, we're going to do 3 layers here. And by the way, this is just a sketch. It's not a one size fits all. It's a rule of thumb. Okay. Everybody's different. So first, we tied up each property in a separate named trust. So if you look up the owner, what do you see? An anonymous trust. Now, trusts don't require registered agents like companies do, so there's no physical address of the trustee. The trustee could live in a different state. And by the way, the trustee should not be you. It should be some friend or family member with a different last name at a P.O. box. They could be within the state, but they could also be outside the state. It could be outside the country. The harder and farther away the information source is, the more frustrated Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe is going to get, and the less likely they're going to take that case without being paid by the hour. You understand the game we're playing here? We are playing like a game of football. Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe is the quarterback. If their quarterback is not willing to play, they forfeit the game, and we take the ball and go home. That's what we're doing here. We're playing defense. Okay? The beneficiary of the trust is going to be an LLC. Now, as we did before, these 3 properties, 3 separate trusts with one LLC as the beneficiary. These 2 properties and 2 separate trusts with this LLC as the beneficiary, and then the rest of them in this LLC. So we have both the anonymity of the trust, the protection of the LLC. And then if you only have a few properties, you only get to layer 1 and 2. That's as far as you're going to need to go. But once you have 2 or 3 LLCs, then you're going to need a parent or holding company that's going to own these LLCs. That's your 3rd layer, and we call that the parent company, sometimes referred to as a holding company. Parent company, think like General Motors. General Motors is the parent. And then these LLCs here are what we call subsidiaries: Buick, Chevy, Cadillac, GMC, and so forth. Right? So they're all owned by the parent company. The parent company owns the subsidiary companies, which own the trust and own the property. Follow me so far? Now, if you think this is complex, and it is, I'll admit it. Can you imagine the poor schmo of an attorney at Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe trying to unravel this from the other side when all they see on public record is an anonymous trust with a trustee with a different last name and a P.O. box in another state? And they write him a letter and say, who's behind the curtain? And the trustee says, I'm not telling you. What are they going to do? They have to roll the dice and file the lawsuit to get to that information, which they're probably not willing to do. Not on a contingency fee. Again, we take the ball, we go home, their quarterback goes home. You follow the game? The game works very well in our favor if you know how to play it. Okay? And then the parent company, which would be an LLC or a family limited partnership, and I like Delaware or Wyoming. The LLCs down here would be in the states where the assets are owned. The parent company, the 3 best states for parent companies or holding companies are Delaware, Nevada, and Wyoming. Nevada is prohibitively expensive, and it's kind of got that air of suspicion around it, like, oh, he's got a Nevada company and must be up to something wrong. Delaware, very common. very respected. You know that almost every public company on the New York Stock Exchange is a Delaware corporation. Why? Because their laws are so favorable. The new kid on the block is Wyoming. They're cheap, they're anonymous, they don't have a lot of information, they don't have all kinds of fees and taxes like a lot of other states do. Same thing with Delaware. Delaware's a little more expensive, but been around the block a little more. I personally use Delaware companies, but many of my clients use Wyoming too. They're six of one, half dozen of the other. And then those companies would be owned by the husband and wife's living trust or trusts if they have two. So that's what they pass on to the heirs. It's not the assets directly, it's the keys to the parent company and everything that flows from it. So what happens when husband and wife are gone, the next generation steps in, takes control of the parent company and everything below it. And it's business as usual. No probate, smooth transition. That's the way to do. And again, this is not a one size fits all. Everyone's going to have a little something different. You want to talk to a professional and make sure what you're doing is appropriate for your own situation. So where do I go from here? First, assess your needs and goals now, not later. Why? Because as we discussed earlier, you can't jump out of an airplane without a parachute. If you wait until someone threatens to sue you, it's too late. Because anything you do at that point is considered suspicious, potentially fraudulent. And whatever you move, you try to get broke in a hurry and start distributing assets to your family members and friends and your cousins to get rid of it. And so when the lawsuit comes, you're broke. It doesn't work. There are laws to prevent that for you from doing that in every state. So the idea is to start the foundation on concrete from the beginning. So if something does, God forbid, go wrong, don't worry, God's got your back if you pray hard. But still, you gotta you've got to take action. You've got to take action. DIY is not recommended. Discuss these issues with a professional. There is no one size fits all. And again, start sooner than later. At the very least, if you have assets that are public, get them out of your name and into trusts. If you don't have a will or a trust or any kind of estate plan, and especially if you're married and you have children and grandchildren, come on. Don't make it hard on them. It's hard enough when you're gone. Make it easy that the transition of the business and the assets go as planned, not some big mystery of they don't know what to do. Okay, so make it easier on them. And finally, my contact info, if you'd like to do a consultation to discuss this type of thing, is bill at bronchicklaw.com, bill at bronchicklaw.com. I will be, of course, speaking this weekend at Wealth Builders, and I think we might have a breakout session on this topic as well. Um, I don't remember off the top of my head, but Karen, you're going to step in and tell me if I'm right or wrong. Am I talking about this weekend at all, or no?
You've got a main session,
Uh-huh.
and so that would be up to you. And then you've got the session that's talking about how to get
Oh,
rent
right.
even if you don't have tenants.
Right. The real estate one. Right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I won't be so well, yeah. Next event. And you can contact me. That's my email address. That's the best way to get me. Bill at bronchicklaw.com. Otherwise, I'll give you Frank's cell number and you can call him and talk to him.
Yeah, call me at midnight.
I especially like text. No, attorneys hate texts. We like paper trails, email.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we do some Q&A here now? Oh, by the way,
Absolutely.
before we start, I have to share my prayer for deliverance from legal trouble. Some of you who
Yeah.
have seen me talk before on this topic,
Mhm.
I've shared this with you, and I'll share it again if you didn't write it down the first time. I was in a very bad mess of a lawsuit for many years that I prayed this prayer over and over, and God delivered me at trial. We won. And I did this webinar similar to this a couple of years ago, I think about a year and a half ago, and I shared this prayer, and someone came up to me at the real estate workshop and said, I prayed that prayer. We were in a lawsuit very similar to yours, and 2 months later, the judge dismissed the case. How about that? How about that?
Wow.
So, Heavenly Father, I humbly come before you in prayer for your protection and deliverance from my legal burdens. You are my strength, salvation, and protector from all evil. Please send your angels to watch over and protect me. Please declare this legal case as unrighteous and illegal, and lift the burden from me as I've confessed my sins and asked for your forgiveness. I pray for your mercy and grace in the courtroom. In the mighty name of Yeshua, I pray. Amen. You pray that prayer over and over again, even if you're not getting sued.
That is
It's a prayer of
awesome, Bill.
protection. It's a prayer of
Thank you. I want to
protection.
give our coaches an opportunity to just comment before we dive into the questions. And
Sure.
I'll start with Frank Pulley.
Well, I'm not going to take a lot of Bill's time. The main thing is you got to do it. You got to act. And that's the bottom line.
So good. Troy.
Yeah, I would agree. Take action. Bill shared a lot of wisdom here. Now is the time to put it into action, not tomorrow. Tomorrow can be too late. You got to do it now. Be ready. Always be ready.
Lawsuits come like Jesus, like a thief in the night.
All right,
Oh,
Mike Davis.
I'll say something totally different. Yeah, do exactly what he said. Yeah, that's it.
And trust
Good
in the
job, Bill.
Lord.
Yeah. No
Amen.
So
kidding.
Thank
good,
you.
Bill. Thank you. Okay, I've got a couple questions here, Bill. One of them is Theophilus. He wants more information on an irrevocable living trust. Can you help people with that?
Irrevocable living trust. Revocable or irrevocable?
Irrevocable.
So trusts can be revocable, means you can change it, edit it, take it back, or irrevocable, right? It's one or the other. Once it's irrevocable, you can't take it back, right? It's like the old expression, being a little bit pregnant. It's one or the other, right? You can't take it back. Now, there are advantages to irrevocable trusts. And it's a lengthy discussion because there's a dozen or more different types of irrevocable trusts, and there are a dozen or more revocable trusts, and each has their place. But the main thing that people use irrevocable trusts for is for usually for tax. There's tax advantages of it, and also for asset protection. Now, certain types of irrevocable trusts, if you the rule of trusts is to the extent that you can get to it, so can your creditors. So if it's revocable, you can get to it, they can get to it. That's not the purpose of a revocable trust. It's for estate planning. An irrevocable trust, if you don't have any right to get to anything and you don't have any say so or control over it, neither do your creditors. But neither do you. So
Wow, that
it's a
is so
gamble.
good.
Hmm.
Wow, thank you. Kitten, oh my goodness, she just left a comment, Bill, that she just had a water line break at one property, a hot water tank
Oh
go out
no.
in another, and a heat pump compressor go out on a third, all within a couple months. I would just say, like, hey, this is the things that real estate investors deal with.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are good months and there are bad months. It always looks good on paper, how much money you make, but then you have a bad month. But don't fret. In the long run, God will deliver you. It's like Job, right?
Yeah,
You're
amen.
being tested here. You're being tested here. Keep your faith because God will reward you.
Coaches, do you have anything to kind of add to that? I think this is like something that every real estate investor deals with.
Yeah, I've
It's
I've had those kind of things happen too. Vacancies, systems break down, and it does seem to happen all at once. It's not the end of the world. It is part of our business. We just have to go through it as best we can and keep going. It's like Bill said, you will be rewarded. It does pay off.
Mhm.
It's another good reason that we advise a lot of our coaching students this. You've got to make sure you're approaching it smart, that you've got reserves, that you've got the ability to weather the storm because these kind of things will happen. So you got to be ready.
By the way, it never happens It never happens Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. Holiday weekends, Saturdays, middle of the night, you're fair game.
Right.
That's
Thank God they have property managers.
that's right, man. That's right.
That's where too Billy talks about, right? You want to ride out, I think he says 2 to 3 real estate cycles.
Yeah.
And so this is
Yeah.
just part of the cycle. And I know it's difficult. I know, like, I wish that nothing would ever go wrong. But, if you just ride it out, like Bill, you have a
Yes.
quote I repeat often: real estate is a get rich slow,
Hmm.
right?
It's a
Yep.
get rich slow game. It's not a get rich quick. You can get broke quick if you don't know what you're doing, but you're not going to get rich quick. It's a long, it just reminds me a real quick story. I had lunch with an old friend of mine from high school. Couple years ago, and back in New York, where I'm from, he had a property I remember he bought in the mid '90s that did, and he had all kinds of problems with it, and bad tenants, and all kinds of problems, and market cycles. And I said, how did you make out with that? He says, well, I finally sold it, and I made like hundreds of thousands of dollars after like 18 years of owning it, and all those expenses, got paid back and then some. He's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but he just kind of looked back and went, I think real estate's just about a survival game. If you could survive the bad times, you'll always come out on top. And that was
Abs-
pretty sharp from a guy who's not that sophisticated of a guy or in real estate.
I
That's
Yeah.
true.
agree.
If you could
That
survive the bad, and watch who you take advice from, because on the internet there's all kinds of. I mean, when you see people on Instagram or TikTok with pimples, I mean, you shouldn't be taking real estate advice from them. If they don't have some gray hairs or a gray beard, if they haven't been through a cycle or two or three, they don't know anything.
Yeah.
You're always a genius when the market goes up.
That's so good. And then Jack and Maureen, they're so sweet. They just said, no question, but heartfelt thanks to you, Bill, for your expertise as you help them to do their trust, their will, the POAs, and their
Oh,
LLC.
great.
They just want you to know
My
they
pleasure.
truly appreciate you.
Pleasure.
Um, all right, so here is a question. Chris says, is your name on all the LLC registrations at both the
Mm.
parent and subsidiary levels?
Usually not if it's done right. Now, there are some states you can't get around it, like Florida's one of them. They ask for a lot of information,
Hmm.
so does Texas. But Wyoming and Delaware are really low information state, and so is Colorado, frankly. It's a low
Yeah.
information state. But that's the beauty of the trust. The trust is the first layer they see on public record. So if they can't get past the information on that, where there's no place to look it up, and the trustee's not going to blab,
Mhm.
how do they know what LLC is underneath, whether you're tied to it or not?
Let me ask you this. Can you have a living trust in Colorado, Delaware, or Wyoming, but own your properties under an LLC in a Florida or another state?
Yes, yes, that's the beauty of trusts is they tie it all together. So if you own assets in multiple states and you don't have a trust, not only do you have to do probate in the state in which you pass, you have to do what's called ancillary probate in every state you own property. Not
Okay,
you, but your heirs do.
Bill, we need to talk to you. You know
Yeah,
what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
take care of this. Okay,
Yes.
great. And then Dan Harvey says, when thinking about establishing an LLC in Wyoming or Delaware, do you have to be a resident of that other state?
You do not. You need what's called a registered agent, which is a company or person that can be the designated person or company to accept legal papers. Every company is required to have one in that state. But there are companies that'll do that for $30 to $50 a year. And that also keeps your name off of the public filing.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people set it up in their own state where they're the registered agent and everybody assumes you're the owner of the property. Now, I'm the registered agent for about 900 companies because I'm a lawyer, but that doesn't mean I own the company.
That's so good. Wow. A lot in there. Like, we really want to talk to you at the event. And then last one is Panisha. I think this is just like an overall question. This
Uh-huh.
seems complicated. How difficult is it to actually go through with what you're talking about?
That's a great question.
Hmm.
And it depends. It depends on how complex you want to make it. And how much you have to lose. You know, there's a balance. I believe in keeping it simpler than more complicated. But some people like complicated. They say, let's just go crazy and take it to the nth degree. It's fun. Some people have that. Other people are like, this is a pain in the neck. I want to keep it simple. All right, well, keep it simple. So it can be as complicated or as simple as you want. But just remember, you know what's going on, not the other attorney on the other side or the other plaintiff who's poking around. They don't know what's behind door number two.
So good. Hey, I really appreciate it. And
Sure.
Bill, if people want to get a hold of you to have you help them,
Uh-huh.
how can they get a hold of you?
I left my email on the last slide there. It's bill at
Okay.
bronchicklaw.com, or they can call my office 303-398-7032. You could find that also at bronchicklaw.com. So if you forget my email, just go to the website. There we go. Someone just posted it on the chat there. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a great team behind the scenes, so that's how you can get a
Great.
hold of Bill. Also, he'll be at the Wealth
Yeah, I'll be
Builders
able to do Wealth Builders
Conference.
Workshop this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend, and he has got a main session, and he's got a couple of
Uh-huh.
workshops, and we have set that up that you're able to talk to him and connect with him. So if
Hmm.
you have not yet registered, I want to encourage you to do so. This is going to be a phenomenal, phenomenal weekend. All right, so I'm going to do a very quick like round robin and give each coach a little last like sentiment thought. Frank?
Well, I may have painted a dark picture, but believe me, the rewards are far better than the stuff that happens to you. It's a business. I don't care if you're in retail, if you're in any other business, stuff's going to happen. You just got to learn to deal with it and, pray for success.
That's right.
Awesome. Pastor Mike?
If you get the knowledge and have expertise people like Bill, if you don't quit, you're going to come out ahead. How's that?
That's awesome. Troy?
Yeah, I agree. This is not it's not a all glitter and glam kind of business, but it is a very profitable business. Bill says it best when he says real estate's not a get rich quick, it's a get rich slow,
Yeah.
but it is one of the most solid ways to get there. And if you practice some of the wisdom and strategies that Bill shared tonight, you'll be protected along the way and you will get there.
Yeah.
Amen. All right, Bill, final thoughts.
Final thoughts is as when I quoted you from the Gospels right in the beginning, you have to build your business on a foundation of concrete and stone, just like you do the foundation of a house. And when the trouble comes, God's got your back, and He's assigned me to have your back too.
That is awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Bill, thank you so much. That was such a
Yeah.
great presentation.
My pleasure. It's
Just
my honor, my privilege to share with these people.
thank you. And just that's just a touch, like taste of what's going to be happening this weekend. So again, please come be a part of it. I just want to thank the coaches, our entire team that's behind the scenes. We can't wait to see you this weekend. God bless you and have an amazing rest of your evening.
Goodbye.